You're welcome to another episode of our program, the Nigerian Theatre Witnesses to History. Today we are going to do something that's a bit off our course, and that's because we are going to be showing the kind of things that theatre artists do outside of the main theatre. And so today we are having as our guests someone who has practiced as a journalist, who has practiced as a public relations expert, and who has practiced as a bookseller. Indeed, that's what he does till now. He is also a product of the University of Calabar, just like Dr. Mrs. Margaret the Apan that we had our interview with the last time. And his name is Mr. Felix Nyong. He will be taking us through how he moved from his trading into the various areas of where he is now, marketing books and getting people to buy books, to read books, and to sustain the literary culture. Join us as we go on to this episode of the Nigerian Theatre Witnesses. Mr. Felix, can you talk to us about your background and how you found yourself a lover of books?
Well, I fell in love with books in secondary school. I can remember I was amazed with the number of books I saw in the library, and I became a friend of the library. So I began to read, and the librarian knew me very well, and on some occasions he would allow me to stay in and read. And I was not really reading textbooks. I was reading other books in the library, novels and other texts. And I was amazed with the number of books, diversity of books.
Which school was this?
Oh, Methodist Secondary School in Biaku Shade. In fact, we've just donated a brand new library to that school.
Who are the we?
Old boys and old girls.
Okay.
Yes. Professor Johnson also attended the school. So I fell in love with books. I discovered that beyond what the teachers were teaching, when you open a book, you see some hidden information. You see, in fact, you see what teachers don't tell you, and your friends don't tell you, because they've not read those books. So I read African Writer Series. I read quite so many novels, and then later I began to read non-fictional works of various authors from Africa and beyond. So from there, of course, when I left secondary school, I remember I went to Lagos to work with my uncle, stay with my uncle, and the first pocket money he gave me, I used the whole money to buy books, and he was not happy about it. But from then, if I see a book, I would spend anything on books, because I believe that God has a special purpose for books, good books I'm talking about, and in them I embedded materials that can transform a life or transform lives, if you can only open those books to read. So I read for A-levels. I studied with Exam Success Correspondence College at Palm Grove. I bought their books, I read. That's why I was able to pass JAM easily. And then went to the university to study theatre arts. I actually wanted to study journalism. My passion was to be a writer, a reporter, and a writer.
So why didn't you study journalism?
Because when I was filling jam form, unfortunately, my friend, unfortunately, died in South Africa. And my childhood friend told me, put theatre arts, put theatre arts. I didn't know anything about theatre arts. And I just put theatre arts and they gave me the admission, dramatic arts. I was happy I was going to the university, leaving federal civil service job to go to Unical and study. That was a class that Ruben Abati belonged, the former chairman of the editorial board of The Guardian. He was a small boy. He was very brilliant, very, very brilliant, and with a good handwriting. And so I studied, but I spent I was preparing for exams like every other student, but I discovered that when I got to the library, I would just abandon my text and read all the books. And I became knowledgeable, and I discovered so much. So that is why I love books so much. And it was not surprising that when my wife and I had the opportunity to set up a bookshop in View, God helped us and we did. And through that bookshop, which is well known in this part of the country, Waterworks, we set up the bookshop, and it has really impacted so many lives. People stop me and say, God bless you. I got a book from your bookshop, and that book transformed my life. Parents, students, and I'm always very happy.
Can you give us a trajectory from after Unical? What else did you do before you set up WordWorks?
Okay, after my NYSC, program, I went to Lagos, got a job, and I was working as a clerical officer. I also worked in flour mills briefly, and so I was just working with my O-levels, and but my mind was not in those jobs. Everybody in the office knew I would not stay long, that I would go to the university. My mind was not there. My mind was to save some money and get back to school. And that's exactly what I did. On the sideline, I was reading, I was scripting, I was writing, and most of the time, I'm not a TV person, so I wasn't really watching television. I was reading. And I want to tell you that reading indeed maketh a man, as one classic author would say. So it broadened my horizon. It exposed me to a lot. Look at the classics. Look at the classics that our young people are not even aware of, not to talk of touching.
Why do you say they are not aware of it?
I think they don't think it's important for you to explore the classics, the subjects, the themes, the plots, the characters. They don't really I don't know whether the teachers maybe they are exposing them, they are talking to them, but they are not reading, they are not passionate about it. Can you imagine? In our bookshop, we have books that in those days people would fight to get the only copy. I read theatre arts, but I took all my electives in English language, English department. Okay. Because I wanted to hone my writing skills. Now, there is a classic, there's a book on writing. Is it Writing Well? Forgotten. This is a book that every writer is a must know. How then can you study English and you don't know? It's amazing. I was begging a guy. That book was written in 1964, 65 by, it was written, let me get the title. It's a classic. It's a small book, but New York Times says it's a classic of all time.
Right.
Do you know that I was begging undergraduates studying English language to buy the book? I was begging them. Amazing. So my job in the last few years since I left Amscon, I have been involved in mentoring young people,
Okay.
sharing with them the need for them to read.
We've jumped back to, I wanted to know what you did after University of Calabar. I know that you were a journalist.
Okay.
You were also
Okay.
a public
Yeah.
relations
Yeah.
person.
After NYSC, it took me 3 years to get a good job, and that was because of lack of knowledge, ignorance. I didn't know what to do then. So I roamed around in Lagos for 3 years. Eventually, I got a job I wrote for Vanguard newspapers briefly, freelancing. Then after that, I got a job with The Guardian. I never wrote an application. I never dropped a CV. I walked in there. The editor told me what he wanted, and I provided the stories, requested for 2 new stories I did, and I got a job. I also worked with a foremost printing press there in Lagos,
Right.
one of the top 3, Bangkok Press, along mile 2 Orile Road. I worked there. It was quite an experience to see how books are produced, and then after that I got a job with SONU Sachi and Sachi,
Okay.
advertising, and all these jobs I asked God to get me those jobs. In fact, every job I wanted, after going around Lagos for 3 years, every job I wanted, God gave me. So I joined SONU, no interview, no application, nothing. The MD just sent for me because I was with The Guardian. He used to read what I was writing. And I went to Borno State, Maiduguri. When I came back, I saw a note on my desk, go and meet the managing director of SONU. And I went there, and the man told me, Felix, I want you to join us. And when you consider the fact that SONU interviews were tough in those days. I know a guy who failed the interview, but became an outstanding advertising man at Prima Garden. So I did that. Then I got fed up with advertising, not really with advertising. I needed a change. So I needed to move into public relations. I wanted to go around the communication spectrum.
Yes.
PR, radio, TV, advertising, printing and publishing. I wanted to go around and then eventually settle on something with the wealth of experience from all these sectors. So I worked with SONU, and then an opportunity came for me to work with Alscon as a pioneer public relations man, and I got the job. I moved to Aluminium Smelter Company of Nigeria PLC. I worked with people from 24 countries, and it was quite an experience. I was the youngest. In fact, I remember my GM telling me to, yeah, he said, he's our PRO. So I was attending meetings with people who had established big plants around the world, from manufacturing to many other plants, Brazil, Asia, America, Europe, and all that. Gray-headed men, very knowledgeable, and it was quite a good thing to learn.
So that was reading a different type of book.
Yes, of course. Yes, that is correct. That is correct. That is correct. I enjoyed it, and unfortunately, Alscon, being a government company, the disease that has afflicted government-owned enterprises in Nigeria, not only Nigeria but around the world, and the company packed up, and I told God I want to leave. So I now came back and expanded my bookshop with my wife, and I really enjoy every day I step into that bookshop. For instance, this mentorship program.
When did you start the bookshop?
Okay, it was 2003. Actually, we set it up for my wife to run. When we got married in Alscon, I met my wife in Alscon, and God told me, that's your wife, and we got married. Then, unfortunately, we married in 96. By 99, ASCOM, the Americans left and the Germans. So, my wife was retrenched, and when the Russians came in later, everybody was telling me, bring your wife back. I said, no, let my wife go and run our bookshop. So every Saturday we were driving from Ikorabasi to Uyo to take care of the bookshop. And I enjoyed every day I went there.
So you took the full step after ASCON folded up. How was starting
A
a business like that?
Well, no, it wasn't actually after ASCON. ASCON has not folded up actually. ASCON.
No, when you joined her, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. I didn't know anything about how to start a small business. All I did was to read. I read everything, and we had a free internet 24/7 in the office. You could stay till the following day if you wanted. So I read online, I bought books, and so when it was time, we prayed, and God gave us a place, and we started. But number one challenge I have seen, and I'm sure other small business owners will say the same thing, is the level of dishonesty, stealing among our young people.
My staff?
Staff, sir. It's like a disease. You see, you employ a young person. Though so many of them work with me and got admission into the university. They come back and thank me and my wife. There's one who is doing business in Lagos. If you hear some of the things he told me about what God used ASCON, what works to do, what works bookshop to do, it amazes me. Because I used to tell them to read. Don't just sell, but read. Great books, classics. We had importers who brought in books like Latana, and one Mr. James in Houston brought containers from the US. Chicken soup for the soul. Oh my. Great book. So I would tell my staff, look, don't just sell. These books will help you. I know you are going to university, but they will teach you academic stuff. They won't teach you about life. They won't teach you about business. So, but the greatest challenge, I've been interviewed a number of times, and I always say, number one challenge is not lack of money, it's not finance. It is the level of dishonesty. You fire, employ another one. Even I had to go to Scripture Union to recruit. Still, you still had young people that were stealing our money. And the level of...
It's a general problem.
Yes.
In Nigerian business.
Exactly. All over the country. If you see the amount of money that staff, employees cut away, it's amazing. Every day. You put it, you solve the problem to try to stop them, and then they find another way. And then you fire, you bring it in. So that has been the experience.
So, how's the journey been? Have you, beyond your staff, how have you been able to impact children of school age to be interested in reading not only subjects, school subjects, but other things?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. It's a question I'm very passionate about, an area I'm very passionate about. You see, I look at children. When they invite me to speak to students or pupils in schools and communities and churches, I don't see children. I see outstanding pilots, outstanding evangelists, pastors, outstanding, civil engineers. So I try to share with them not only my experience, but what I've read from books. And I tell them that, I tell parents, I also address PTA meetings. I tell them that the best thing, one of the key things you can do to get your child to do well in school and also to develop good character is to get that child to fall in love with reading early. Right from primary one, from nursery. Begin to expose that child to books, storybooks, pictures, illustrations, graphics. Expose those things, and the children will pick up. In fact, there is a couple. They are customers in one of the universities. I don't want to mention the name. They went to UK for a program sponsored by the state government, and there the wife gave birth to a child, and they began to teach this child from age 3 months. They began to teach the child colors, from colors to ABC, from ABC to 2 letter words. And do you know that at age 3, this child could read the Holy Bible so beautifully that when the grandmother visited them, she was shocked and pleaded with them not to allow people to know how far the child had gone. You see, catch them young.
Yeah.
So we are invited to schools to address PTA meetings, and I tell parents the role they need to play. Things were not even as difficult as they are now for many parents. Parents were, interested in making money, looking for money. Now with the fuel crisis, only God knows.
Yeah.
So, but parents should block out time and teach their children something.
Yeah.
You are educated, you can teach English, you can teach maths, you can teach history, then you can teach about life 101. I never did this for my son, but one of the key subjects is life 101. Get your child to get an exercise book. Teach him or her about life, from lives of great men, the mistakes they made, the successes they accomplished.
Yeah.
And your child will really flourish.
I'm sure you must have enjoyed very much as I did the guest that we have today as a witness, Mr. Felix Nyong, on the Nigerian Theatre Witnesses to History. We'll join him again next week for another episode. Please like, share, and subscribe to our podcast.